Ladies and gentlemen, we are here on the GMAP Broadcast Network, GMAP1.com. My friend and my brother, he is the author, Onward to Manhood, Mr. Eric Elliott here with me on today. We are here to be a blessing to you. We're going to share with you how a lot of this came about. We're going to let you know that it is something that has been, is, and will be available for you for quite some time. But right now, I don't want to hold off any longer. I know that we have people tuned in. I know that I have had this young man on the line for over an hour trying to get this all figured out. I'm going to go ahead and let him do what he does. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly, bro.
Amen. Amen. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and ask you to do me a favor on today. Why don't you do this, man? Why don't you come on into the fold, introduce yourself, tell us who you are, and tell us where you're from. And then I want to dive in a little bit and talk a little bit about Onward to Manhood. Let's talk about that also. So go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, first thing I want to do, even before I introduce myself, is say thank you, Kevin, for your persistence and perseverance in setting up this interview and this session we had to talk here. And I know that this is just the microcosm of some of the things you have to do as far as making the station successful. So I'm sure you've had to do this dozens, if not hundreds of times with, technical glitches and all kinds of different hurdles and that kind of thing. But all of that is part of the process of growth and development. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But this last hour and a half or so, you've powered through, man. So I want to commend you for that.
Amen.
And so just to introduce myself to the group, my name is Eric Elliott. I'm the author of the book Onward to Manhood, Establishing Godly Masculinity, originally from the Richmond, Virginia area. Currently reside now in Northern Virginia with my wife and my family. And I am truly thrilled to be with you guys here today and share a little bit about my journey on manhood, the reason I wrote the book, and any other things that need to be shared in this particular interview today.
Amen. Amen. Well, man, I'm excited to have you. And this has really literally been a long time coming. I have known about Onward to Manhood for quite some time. And I believe in my spirit, Eric, it's going to give it a new I guess you can say it's gonna give it new life. It's gonna reestablish the life that it has had over the years, and we're going to elevate its present to people that may not have heard about it in the past. We're gonna make sure they hear about it today. So tell us a little bit about it, man. Onward to Manhood. Tell us how it all got started. How did it get to the point to where Eric Elliott said, you know what, it's time to put this message inside a book and disseminate it to the people around the world? How did that all come about?
Well, in order to get to that point, we have to spin it back probably 3 decades.
Wow.
To realize that, number one, I was a lousy English student. Matter of fact, I would sit up in English class and, while class was being taught, we were reading or going through all the different aspects of English. While all of that was going on, I was looking out the window.
Wow.
You probably met people who said, hey, I'm a high school dropout. Well, for me, I was a high school lookout. I was looking out the window. So when you're talking about writing a book, it's amazing to me still to this day that God allowed me to put together a book and release it, and then other people are reading and absorbing it and gleaning from it. So the probably the reason behind the book was, again, back to that English class. I remember back in, I believe the year was right around 1987, growing up in Richmond, Virginia. At that time, Richmond, Virginia was known as the murder capital of the United States.
Wow.
And I remember reading a statistic one time, and it just stuck with me. I mean, it just stuck me like a linebacker coming out of nowhere and blitzing a quarterback.
Uh-huh.
It said that in Richmond, Virginia, as a young black male, before you reach the age of 18, you have a 1 in 22 chance of being murdered.
Wow.
Now, I don't know, and now you're in Chicago, so there's some similar things flowing on in Chicago right now.
Uh-huh.
And for some reason, man, that just really stuck with me. And as I was reading that, as I was reflecting on that, I just looked around the room, and in that classroom, there happened to be about 22 people.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking, man, so that really what that's saying is by the time I hit 18, one of either myself or one of my classmates just be gone
Gonna be gone.
at the
Right.
hands of a gun.
Right.
And that was just kind of one thing. It was one huge deposit in my spirit in terms of, man, what can I do to make a difference, to just kind of turn things around here in the Richmond area.
Mm-hmm.
I had an incredible father. He poured into me tremendously. Um, so for me, that wasn't the issue. But for a whole lot of my classmates, they did not have that father figure. They didn't have that presence. And so, even at a young age, 16, 17, 18 years old, I'm thinking, what can I do to just kind of reverse this thing here that's coming up where, young black men aren't expected to do anything. They aren't expected to be anything. They aren't expecting to live. And that was kind of the conversation I had with some of my classmates and some of the guys I went to school with and grew up with. And that I didn't know it at that time, but that was the very beginning of this onward to manhood journey, and
Mm-hmm.
it just continued to unfold over the years as I learned from some really great examples of men, and I saw some really lousy examples of men as well.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter what the example was, good or bad, but I was going to learn from them, learn something from them, and just kind of and fold it into who I was and move forward with it.
Right.
Because my dad always taught me that you can learn something from everybody, no
That's
matter
right.
who
That's
they
right.
are, no matter how much money they have or don't have, whatever business status they have, wherever they are in life, you can learn something from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked up on that lesson, and all these different people who poured into my life, again, whether it was good or bad, they didn't know it, but they were helping me to build this experience and to formulate some understanding, and all of that was, percolating inside of me, and it came out in 2015 in the form of the book Onward to Manhood, and
Mm-hmm.
you'll see some of those very vivid stories in the book itself.
Right. Now, the book was written in the year of, what is it, 2015?
15,
2015. It's been out
yes.
for a little while, and of course, I have had the experience over the years, Elliot, to be Eric, to be able to connect with people who have written books, and what has taken place is they have turned into radio shows. These books have turned into podcasts. They've turned into stage plays, and I even know one now. It's under movie production. One that I featured on our platform a few years back, and it was titled "Hell in the Choir Stand," and it's currently under a movie production. Yeah, I'm like, wow. So it's amazing how a lot of this comes about. But I guess what I'm saying, what I'm getting at, and I'm saying all that to say this: what do you see next as you continue to go forth on the journey that God has placed you on? What do you see next for this particular publication? What is your vision, and what's the next step that you plan to take as far as presenting Onward to Manhood to people
Mhm.
around the world?
Well, I can tell you, I'm in lockstep with you when you talk about a book that evolves into a movie.
Mm-hmm.
Strangely enough, you mentioned that I hadn't shared it with you, but over the past few weeks, I have been in communication
Wow.
with someone who does have those pathways, if you will, to become movies, because of some of the things that's going on right now in the realm of movies and of men. This
Mm-hmm.
is something that people are thirsty for, to see some strong example of
Yeah.
godly masculinity and great masculinity. So I have been in communication, and we'll see how God unfolds. That would not surprise me if there was some type of thread or some type of link to a movie. But as far as what I see next and what is unloading right now,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, the book becomes a workbook.
Mm-hmm.
The workbook becomes a workshop, and the
Mm-hmm.
workshop produces workmen who can rightly divide the truth.
Right.
Now, how that's unfolding is in a couple different ways, because right now it's unfolding in that way. When we think about young men, like really young men,
Yeah.
we're in the process right now putting together a rites of passage. I'm working with several friends now. We're doing a rites of passage for young men here in the Loudoun and the Northern Virginia area.
Mm-hmm.
And if you haven't heard of that before, that's basically a program that leads to a ceremony that allows young men to know that, hey, I'm not just a boy anymore. I'm now crossing over into manhood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that whole rites of passage is coming together in that kind of way. We're working on some very strong and some very different aspects of the rites of passage, and just to give you a hint as to some of those things that are unfolding right now, they have everything from, for that rites of passage, everything from spiritual fulfillment to academic enrichment, physical development, economic empowerment,
Mm-hmm.
community involvement,
Mm-hmm.
and anything else that's meant that to define a man. So that's the younger aspect of where the book is going. So we're talking about a couple of different tiers here. The younger tier for young men who are not yet men, as we call it, and then
Mm-hmm.
for older men, guys who've already they developed families and they've moved out on their own. They've established themselves. Maybe they're in mentoring roles, or maybe they're in leadership or management roles. Roles that indicate that they have something to pass along to the next generation or to somebody else. And so, for that aspect of manhood, we put together, or we're in the process of putting together, what we call bunches of progress.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's bunches, Bunches. That's brothers, uncles, nephews, cousins, husbands, and especially sons.
Mm.
Bunches of progress. And essentially, what it is just, you know, putting together communities of men to develop and to advance communities of men to a place in life where they can answer questions like, what problem am I here to solve, and what territory can I conquer?
Right.
So that this one book, which I didn't really want because I wasn't a great English student, and I,
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
didn't
Right. Right.
didn't think I had the patience to sit down and write out a book and that kind of thing. This one book that I didn't really want is now blossoming into rites of passage for boys and younger men, and bunches of progress for older men as well. And so those are some of the next steps that are being unveiled right before our very eyes.
Right.
Based on the springboard of this book.
Hey man, well, I'm excited, man. I just can't thank you enough, man, for just simply taking time out with your patience, man, to be so persistent and consistent at presenting this book, because I believe in my spirit. When I was thinking about it, let me back up, let me rewind the tape and press play. When I was thinking about it, Onward to Manhood gave me the analogy, gave me the assumption that it was a book that was written exclusively for young men of this world. Now that was my assumption, and that was the way I viewed it based on what it was titled. Now, when the book was written, was that in fact the purpose, and your point is to focus on presenting something for the younger generation, specifically the young men that are coming up, preparing themselves for manhood?
In fact, Kevin, that is the bullseye target of the book. When we
Wow.
talk about young men who putting together a blueprint for their life,
Yeah.
men in the range of, let's say, 15 to 34. That's the bullseye target of the book. But as the book has evolved, and as I work with a writing coach, he helped me to understand. He said, Eric, the majority of the people who are going to purchase your book will be women, because these women, these girls and women, want to understand the men in their lives. They want to understand their brothers, their fathers, their uncles, their friends. No matter what the relationship is, they want to understand those men. And so, as my writing coach and I were working, and we were sharpening each other, as it were,
Mm-hmm.
the scope of the book expanded a little bit more to be able to relate to women, because
Right. Right.
he let me know that they are some primary readers. You'll get guys, you'll get a percentage of guys who will read, but you'll get a much larger percentage of women who will read.
Right.
So it's written in the kind of way that women can step into our world. In fact, there are there basically, if you look at the book, is there's four window panes you look through in the book.
Mm-hmm.
This book talks about what we face,
Mm-hmm.
what we fight,
Now you're talking about
what we fear
as men.
as men.
Okay. Okay.
Correct.
What
Correct.
we face.
What we face as men,
Uh-huh.
what we fight as men,
Uh-huh.
what we fear as men, and what we find fascinating as men.
Right. Okay.
And so you look through those four window panes, and you open up the window, and when you step into the book, it talks about those four window panes of who we are as men. And so really it doesn't matter because of the examples and the numerous lessons that are shared in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter whether you're, just kind of 13 and figuring things out, or whether you're 48 and you're a top corporate executive. There are so many different threads and stories to this book that it speaks to all those different realities that men face and that men are.
Right. Wow. Man, I tell you what, man, this is so exciting. Now, when I think about something, I always got to bring this up when I speak to people about their publication. I had a young lady here recently who wrote a book titled My First 55. Okay, she titled her book My First 55. Now, it does not seem very interesting when you think about My First 55, okay? But what she did, and I want to get your take on this, what she did is she wrote about her history. She wrote about her growing up, her parents' parents, and how she got from birth to 55 years old. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the unique thing that I'm loving about this is I said, Rosie, what do you plan to do? She said, I plan to continue to pass this on so that someone can pick up where I left off and add the next 55.
Sure enough.
I thought that was an amazing concept because we all go to family reunions and we'll eat. Many of them will drink and do what they do, and then we'll sit around the table or sit on the couch and we'll lie to each other. Okay? We're going to make everybody think we are at the top of our game. We got a good job, a good wife, a good husband, a good home, a good car. Not saying that a lot of that ain't true, but we
Mm-hmm.
always want to, we want to make it sound even better than it is. Let's just put it that way. Now, I just thought
Sure.
that was a unique concept, Eric, because it's almost like her biography. It's almost like her history in a book to where it can continue. It never ends. Let's put it that way. The book continues to grow because what happens is the next generation will know about the previous generation. You understand what I'm
Sure.
saying? So I thought that's where the uniqueness came in. And when I look at this particular publication, Onward to Manhood, wow, the bells went off. I'm like, wow, it would be a nice concept to continue. What happens next? What happens when you hit that pubic point to where you dive in from being that child to the teenager, from that teenager to the adult, from the adult to the parent, from the parent to the senior citizen? So that's a very interesting concept. What happens next? And you talked about 4 windows. Can you repeat those 4 windows for me?
Sure. Four window panes. What we face, what we fight, what we fear, and what we find fascinating. And every man has those 4 realities.
Wow. Man, you know what, man? I've gotten excited because now I have a young man on the show, on the network now, Eric, who is by the name of Dr. Larry Waltower. He presented a book to me titled Suffering in Silence. And his book has went on to come on as a special guest once a month or once a week. I forgot how we worked it out, and then it turned into a program. I want to invite you back to come on live and talk about those 4 window panes. I want you to break those avenues down because I don't think many people out there are really grabbing a hold of what it is you're saying. And it's so very true because as I think about it, I'm like, wow, now you did say what you fear, didn't you?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. That's one of the realities because we all have something we fear, no matter how much
Right.
macho or bravado we can put out there. There's something, at least one thing that we fear. And I
Right.
know for me, I don't mind sharing right here. I'm not sure what the time window is, but I don't mind sharing
Mm-hmm.
because I have faced this fear several times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, every man wants to. Every man who's a true man wants to be a provider. They want to be
Right.
someone who can produce.
Right.
And
Right.
and and something that I've encountered several times is the loss of work, the loss of jobs. And that's one thing that I have feared, and I have feared it, and I have faced it repeatedly. And
Mm-hmm.
so, to be able to overcome that kind of thing, I've got quite a bit that I can share with someone who's in a position right now where they're facing joblessness, or they're facing a cycle where they're not being employed as much as they think that they should.
Right.
They're not up to their employment expectations. So if we
Right.
look through that one window pane called what we fear, from that perspective, we were talking about joblessness or being underpaid or underappreciated at work and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
There's a section of the book that does, in fact, talk about that.
Okay. And that is important because it's almost like a slap in the face when a man is approached and informed that he's not a provider.
Mm.
That's hard to accept. And I've been in that position. I've been in that position to where it had gotten so bad to where my wife had told me, "You're not doing what you're supposed to do."
Mhm.
That is a fear. But not only
Mhm.
I can go beyond it being a fear, but it's painful. It's not just fearful, but it's painful. So, man, I can relate to that, and I know that there's going to be a lot of people that will be able to relate to the other four window panes of the publication. And before we let you go, and we're going to invite you back, I'm sure, because I'd love to have you back and break those things down. For the next month or so, man, have like a special onward to manhood feature, for the next couple of weeks. But why don't you tell the people how they can get a copy if they're interested in going out purchasing a copy of Onward to Manhood, so they can go ahead and get it together. Maybe they may want to pass it on and give it to a son or something. Let us know how we can get a copy of it, and let us know how we can reach you.
Absolutely. Onward to Manhood is some incredible summer reading. Typically, summer is the time when people just kind of, don't want to do anything. We want to hit the beach. We want to, just want to kick back and relax, put our mind in just totally amusement mode, and not really do anything productive. But this is a great time to help to develop a blueprint for manhood, to embolden yourself in manhood. And so the book itself is sold at the website by my name, www.ericjelliott.com. That's EricJelliott.com. And at that website, you can also pick up some free inspiration. There's all types of inspiration. Book me for speaking engagements as well. The other site that it's on is also extremely well known. It's a little site called Amazon.com. You can find it on that as well.
Little
But
side.
in addition to the book, there's a podcast that kind of goes behind it, because so many of us live mobile lives
Mm,
that if we don't have an opportunity to sit down and read right away, then perhaps we'll plug in some earbuds and listening to a podcast. So the
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
podcast, it's called the Onward Podcast. It comes through Storm Talk Radio 365.com.
Okay.
Or you can also find that podcast available on my Facebook page. If you go to the Facebook page by my name, Eric Elliott, there you see it on the screen. Friend me, and I can enable you to reach that podcast, the Onward Podcast.
Right.
It's
Right.
definitely set aside for people who want to shift gears from maybe one day to this is day one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Amen. Amen. So, man, I appreciate that, man. That is, wow. I'm excited for. Like I said, we're just re providing and the opportunity for people to go out and purchase this book for those that don't have it already. We want to encourage
Yeah.
them to go out and pick up a copy of it, order it. I'm hoping and praying that you will be able to see it also back in our bookstore here on the GMAP Broadcast Network. You'll be able to click on it. It'll take you directly to Eric's website and or Amazon location for you to purchase it. We always want to encourage people to come to our platform, and if you purchase it through our platform, there will be a blessing. We have a gift for you via the GMAP Broadcast Network. We have went out. We've ordered pens, pencils, T-shirts, and things of that magnitude. So when people come through our platform and they participate and they get involved. They order a book or two, and they do it through our platform. We always want to show them a form of appreciation by sending them a
Of
coffee
course.
cup and a T-shirt. So we're gonna hope and pray that you will be able to come back. But Elliot, man, Eric, I can't thank you enough, man, for taking time out of your busy day to hang out with us here on the GMAP Broadcast Network. Onward to Manhood. We want you to get out and purchase your copy today, find out more, and hopefully you'll be back, man. Hopefully we can invite you back, man, and you can tell us in detail each window pane that exists in this publication so people can get a breakdown of what it's really all about. But before we let you go, man, is there anything else you'd love to share with the people around the world?
Yeah, I definitely look forward to sharing some more with you. Again, I want to say thank you for continuing to forge ahead with the GMAP network. It's in a conversation prior to our interview, you were telling me about some of the bold ventures you've worked on, and I want to encourage you to continue to do those things.
Amen.
Because
Amen.
that's what that's just what a slice of manhood is. You have to be bold and continue to
Yeah.
move forward
Yeah.
in whatever God has called you to do.
That's right.
So whether it's driving a school bus, or whether it's making sandwiches at the local cafeteria, or whether you running Fortune 500 companies.
That's right. That's right.
Whatever your hand finds to do it with all your might, and move forward with that thing, because God has endowed everyone listening to this broadcast as more than a conqueror.
That's
So
right.
it doesn't matter what kind of label people slapped on you, you're more than a conqueror.
Mm-hmm.
And I encourage you to continue to move forward with that knowledge and with that passion.
Amen. I appreciate that, man, and I sure will. Something I'll never forget, man. And I thank you for those kind words. It always encourages us when we can hear other brothers encourage. That's important to me.
Yeah.
That goes very far. Goes a long way in the hearts and minds of me and other people when you can get a brother who will come up and encourage you. That's why it should be our passion to encourage one another. With no
Yeah.
with no doubt at all, because we need it. Stop encouraging people in a negative way, making them think that it's cool to wear your pants sagging, down under your behind, or out there smoking and drinking on the street corners. Gang, stop encouraging that. Encourage them to do something positive with their life, something that will allow them to be successful, something that will encourage them to set standards and be a role model for those that are yet to come. So Eric, man, I thank you so much once again, man. I look forward to having you back. Until then, listen, ladies and gentlemen, it's been Eric Elliott here on the GMAP Broadcast Network, author, Onward to Manhood. We want you to look out. We're going to be inviting him back. And for those that don't know, he's also going to have our conversation aired on our Comcast cable broadcast channel. We'll give you more details on that. But until next time, peace. God bless you. Take care. Take it easy. If it's good to you, take it twice. Remember this: if you do not remember anything else in life, keep God first in your life. You cannot and or will not ever go wrong. God loves you, and so do I. Believe in your heart. Confess with your mouth that he died on the cross for our sins. He rose again on that third day, descended up into the heavens, and now he is currently sitting on the right hand of God, preparing a place for you and me. Be blessed and be a blessing, and stay encouraged. Eric, man, I love you, man. You have a wonderful, wonderful day, man. Look forward to talking to you again soon, okay?
Yes, sir, brother.
God bless you, man.
Bless you, brother.